Tov. Today's daf is Nazir daf Mem Gimel Nazir 43. We're going to start on the bottom of Mem Beis Amud Beis, where the Gemara was discussing that there are two approaches to what Rav Huna said, that of Rabbah and that of Rav Yosef. That Rabbah is of the opinion that if you actually walk into that you're able to be in violation of two prohibitions. If you walk into a house at the same time that there's a dead body there, that you're in violation of two prohibitions, according to Rav Huna, one of entering into the house and one of become tummy from a dead body. Whereas Rav Yosef says, no, you're only going to be liable for once. So on the bottom of Mem Beis and Beis, the Gemara says, so the Gemara says, well, according to what basically Rabbah is saying is that tuma v'tuma lo, that if you're in a case that in a situation where you were already tamei, we're not going to say you become tamei again from touching it. We're not going to say you get this second prohibition. And so the Gemara says that according to Rabbah, that if you're already tamei, that and he's already tamei because he touched a dead body. And so there, under those circumstances, he then touches another dead body. According to Rabbah, we're going to say that he's only going to get one lashes, whereas with tumobia, where if you come into a house, you're going to get two sets of lashes. So the Gemara says, well, tumobia nami hamitame v'kai. Even when he's tamei and he comes into a dead body, he's there in that circumstance. He's already tamei. So why, if he's tamei from having touched a dead body and then he goes into a house, is he going to get a second set of lashes? So the Gemara explains that there's a distinction. It says Rabbi Yochanan, there's a distinction that in the case of a house versus the case of a house versus the case in a field. That in the house, he's coming into the house for the first time, he's simultaneously becoming tamei while he's coming in contact with the dead body as well. And so therefore, since both of them come at the same time, we're going to say he gets two set of lashes. But when he's in the field, there's no tent over the dead body, and so therefore he's not going to get two sets of lashes, because if he touches two dead bodies at the same time and they had warned him for two bodies, then he's not going to be liable for twice, because the hasra, the warning, is only on the prohibition of the tumah, and so therefore he was only warned once, and he's therefore only going to get one set of lashes. And if there was a dead body that was on his shoulder and they gave him a dead body and he touched it, he's also not going to get lashes twice, because he's already two sets of lashes for one act, because he's already tamei from the dead body. So where can we get tumah from two? Where can we get two sets of lashes for one action? That is only in a circumstance where he enters into the house at the same time that there's a dead body there. So then he's going to get a set of lashes for entering in and also for being in contact with a dead body. The two separate lots. So the Gemara says, but how is that even possible? Bias nami, even on top of 43, the Gemara is going to ask three questions. How is it possible that it's a simultaneous act? But bias nami, even the ayal yade is tayev. So even when he walks into the house, once his hand goes in, he's going to become tamei. Ki ayal kuei hai tamiu. And then when he brings in the rest of the body, he's already tamei from having entered his body. And so what's it even adding? He's not simultaneous. So Rabbi Elazar tziref yado. What Rabbi Elazar says that we're talking about a case is where tziref yado, he stuck his hand in, and so therefore, after he stuck his hand in, he entered in his whole body, and so therefore we're going to say mishum tuma ika. So since he stuck his hand in, he's going to get liability for coming in contact with the dead, but mishum bia ika. But he's not going to get liability for the prohibition of entering in, because the entering in is not adding anything onto his tumah, because he was already tumah. Gemara says vitzirev gufo. So, but that's only where his hand was on his body. Then it will be a case of tumu bia So if it would be a case where he stuck his hand in and then the rest of his body, then it wouldn't be simultaneous. But if he put his hand on his body, then we're going to say it's simultaneous and they'll come together. The Gemara says, but that's also not simultaneous. But it's not possible that even his nose would have come in him first. And the tumah would have gone on his nose before the rest of his body. Gemara says, and therefore we would have this problem. Now I'm a Rava hechnes yado shem tuma ika mishem bia leika hechnes kufo tumo bia ba'adi adadi ka'asyan. So Rava says what we're talking about is it's true that if he stuck his hand in first, it is not going to be simultaneous. But we're talking about a case where the whole body went in. Let's say he moved his head backwards, and so therefore the whole body is coming in at the same time. Gemara says, but that's an impossibility also. It's impossible that a single part of his body wouldn't come in first. Like, let's say the toe would come in first. Papa says, what are we talking about? We're talking about a case where he entered in basically in a closed chamber, which the tumah could not penetrate. And then his friend comes and removes the roof, and Tosfos says he's Messiah, he's helped him remove it. That's what Tosfos understands. He helped him remove the cover, and so therefore he's participating in the action. From the inside, he helped him remove the cover. Therefore, we're going to say the tumah bia ba'adi adadi kasin, that the tumah and bia are simultaneous, and therefore he's going to get two prohibitions. And Mar Bar Avashi gives a different example. Could go into Ayal Kashu Gosis. He went into the house when the person was almost dead. He's a ghost. He's near death. And while he's sitting there, the person's soul evaporated. Because in that case, the tumah and the bia, the tumah and the entrance came at the exact same time. So therefore, he's going to be liable for two prohibitions because he was already in the house. So since we started talking about the fact that he went to the house while the person was a ghost, the Gemara is going to discuss, is the Kohen or a Nazir allowed to go into a house when the person is near death? So there's two separate verses. That one verse states about a Kohen, it says, that a Kohen is not allowed to become tummy amongst his people, defile him. And then about a Nazir, it says, for his father, his mother, his brother, his sister, he's not allowed to become tummy with them, because the crown of God is on his head. So what does it say about a Kohen that if he becomes in contact with a dead body, or defile him? Means ad shayamus, that he's allowed to come in contact with them until they're actually dead. Whereas Rebbe says bimosam. Rebbe says, the verse says that he's not allowed to come, the Nazir cannot come in contact with his relatives when they die, which means that he's allowed to touch them until the time that they die. So what's the difference between Tanakama, who learns out the fact that until they're dead, he's allowed to come in contact from Lahechalo, versus Rabbi Yochanan, versus Rabbi who learns it out from B'mosam. So what's the difference between them? So I'm Rabbi Yochanan, Mashmos, Darshan, Ikabanayim. Rabbi Yochanan says, it's just how he darshan the verses. Mashma'us darshan ikabenayu. That it's just how you interpret the verses, and it's not a real legal distinction. Whereas Rish Lakish says there is a legal distinction. Go says ikabenayu, that whether or not you had to come in contact with somebody who's for sure going to die, he's almost dead, and he's about to die. So that person, according to one who the Tanakh learns it out from Lahechalo, I feel goses. You wouldn't be allowed to come in contact even with the goses. The Kohen would not be allowed to come in contact with the person who's a goses because he's already been defiled. He's almost a corpse at that point. He's mechulal. But according to the one, that's how the Rosh explains it. The Rosh says the shapir mikra chalal, even the rov goes lemisa. He's called a chalal because most of the Gosim will die. The majority of the Gosim will die. Whereas according to the one who says, according to Rabbi who says it's based upon the verse B'mosam, Ad Sheyamos in Gosei slow. That is only going to be prohibited once he actually dies. But if he's a Gosei, it's not prohibited. So then the Gemara goes, how does each one interpret the other verse? So according to Tanakama who says, we derive the fact that the Kohen can't come in contact with a dead body from Mehechalo. What does he do? with bimosam. The Rebbe who earns it actually, ironically, like a different teaching of Rebbe. Tanya Rebbe Omer bimosam eno metameh aval metameh be nigaasam ubesivatam. So Rebbe says a Kohen can't come in contact with the dead body of his relatives, but he can come in contact with their other tumas, with their saras and their ziva, that he can't come in contact with. Woman the Amr bimosam, and according to the Rebbe who says he learns it out from bimosam, so what is he? How does he learn that? How does he learn this idea that he can come in contact with their other tumas, just not the dead body? So he says in Kain Lemakra b'mos. The pasuk could have said b'mos. My b'mosam. Why does it say b'mosam? Shmas mina tarti. We learn both things from that. So the Gemara, Oman Amar b'mosam, and according to Rabbi, he learns that from b'mosam. Haksiv le'echalo. What does he do with the fact that it says le'echalo, which means that he can come in contact? Why doesn't he learn that from le'echalo? So what does he do with le'echalo? Le'echalo hachiu da'asa. So it's coming to teach us b'misha einu mechulo. So it's coming to teach us the following concept. What does he do with it? He says it's coming to teach us that only a Nazir who is not Tameh and he's not Mechulal is going to be liable if he touches a dead body. But if the Nazir had already become Tameh for touching a dead body, then he's not going to be in violation of the prohibition by touching another dead body, because he's not adding anything onto his Tumah. So according to the one who says le'echalo, how does he know that? He goes in King le'makra la'achel. Pasuk could have said la'achel ma'al le'echalo shmas mina tarti. We learn from here both elements of it. We learn from here that a Nazir is only warned about, is only prohibited from a dead body, tamah, but not from other tamah. And also we learned that if the Nazir became tameh and then he became tameh again, he's not going to be liable for the second tamah. So the Gemara challenges this. Gemara challenges Rish Lakish, who says that you're not allowed to come in contact with a ghost, because it says a person is not metame until his soul expires. Even if he's missing a limb, or even if he's a ghost. So if that's the case, and according to Reish Lakish, the one who says Me'echalo is saying that he's tummy even from a ghost. Hakatani de'eno metame. Hakatani de'eno metame. It says explicitly in the Brisa he's not tamei. So the Gemara says you're right. You're right. He's not going to actually become tamei until the soul expires. But the ghost is called the mechulal ha'isliel, and so therefore even when he's a ghost, he's called the chalal. And the Nazir is going to be prohibited to touch the halal, even though he's not going to become tamei. And so therefore there's a separate prohibition to come in contact with the ghost. That's what he's going to be learning. So on the top of 43b, the Gemara says, Amarav Chist Amarav. We learn the following. So since we're talking about a ghost, we go into a little bit of a tangent. So the Talmud tells us, it says Rav Chis in the name of Rav Nikta Rosh Aviv. Let's say the father's head was chopped off. Then the Kohen is not going to be allowed to come in contact with him. My time. What's the reason? That he's allowed to become tamei. A Kohen can become tamei for his father, which means bizman shu shalem. He can only come in contact for his father when he's complete person. Bizman shu chaser, but not when he is missing his head, or really missing another part of his body, a limb. So the Gemara says, so let's say he's walking along in the valley whose name is called Aravot. Let's say he's walking along the valley, and then and the robbers chopped off the head of his father. Would you say that a Kohen cannot become tamei for him? So of course he will be required to become tamei for him. There's nobody else to deal with it. So Rav Chista says, well, you give me an example. Rav Chista says to Rav Hamnuna, he says to him, Mace mitzvah ka'amras, you're talking about a mace mitzvah, you're talking about a dead body. Let's just pause for a moment. Look at that term. What's a mace mitzvah? A mace mitzvah is a dead body that there's nobody to attend to. So even though a Kohen Gadol and a Nazir can never become tamei for anybody, and a Kohen can only become tamei for his relatives, that if there's a dead body that's nobody to attend to, then they're obligated to. It's a mitzvah. But the term, the mace mitzvah, is maybe the most beautiful term in the entire Shas. There's nothing that has less purpose than a dead body. But a mitzvah, all of a sudden, the halacha comes and says this dead body is now a mitzvah to deal with it. It becomes a mace mitzvah. And I shared a word about this on the 1 Minute Daf episode about Purim, about the relationship between this and Purim. I'm not going to, I don't want to spoil it for you, so you can go there and check it out. It's on the YouTube channel. So the Gemara says, well, since it's an unattended dead body, for sure somebody else has to deal with it. Even if it was somebody else, he'd be obligated to deal with it. For his father, for sure. So the Gemara says, well, why is this a mace mitzvah? The high mace mitzvah. Why is this considered a mace mitzvah? That time, don't we learn the brisa? Ezu mace mitzvah. What's a mace mitzvah? Kol she'en lo kovrim. Anybody who there's nobody to bury him. Korei v'acherim. Onin also. But if he calls and other people respond to him, it's not a mace mitzvah. But here there's the son. The son can deal with it. He can hire somebody. So why is this called a mace mitzvah? Gemara says, no, keeping the ka'azal ba'orcha, since he's standing on the road, even though he could go hire somebody else, but it would take too long. So it's like there's nobody there to bury him, so it's called a mace mitzvah. So the Gemara says, Meisvei, the Brisa says, the Gemara is going to challenge this din of Rav, who says that again, Rav's halacha was that if the father is not complete, then the son, who's a Kohen, cannot bury him. Meisvei lo yitama. It says that the Kohen can only become tamei for his relatives. It says for his unmarried sister, to her he can become tamei. So the Brisa says he can become tamei for her, but he cannot become tamei for her limbs. So if a limb fell off his father or one of his 7 relatives, then that limb carries tumah on it. And so even though it's not necessarily required to be buried, but for the limb from a living person as opposed to the limb from a dead person, nevertheless it carries tumah. And so therefore, so he says he's not allowed to become tamei for one of those limbs. But let's say the Kohen became tamei by dealing with the burial of his father, and afterwards they discovered that the father had been missing a part of their body, the size of a bone, the size of a barley corn, and he's able to go back and collect this missing part and bury it. So what does that mean? Isn't the implication, what's the mitzius? My machzir al etzem kisora. What does it mean he can return to bury this bone the size of a barley corn? Isn't it teaching us porta that even if it's missing a portion, even though the Kohen was missing a portion, he still was involved in burying him. So therefore the Kohen was able to bury his father, even though his father was missing a limb. Mara says, no, that Brisa is found in the position of Rabbi Yehuda. Law. He Rabbi Yehuda, the Tanya, what does Rabbi Yehuda say? La mitama ve'enu mitame le'ivarim. But this Brisa follows the position of Rabbi Yehuda, who says the Kohen is allowed to become tamei for his father, even when his father is not complete. And that's why that Brisa says you can go back to bury the barley corn. Because Rabbi Yehuda disagrees with the position that Rav is taking, and even though Rav is generally speaking not a complete Ta'ana, but he does argue with Tanaim. And so Rabbi Yehuda seems to be arguing directly with Rav. The Tanya Rabbi Yehuda Omer law that Rabbi Yehuda says for his sister he can become Tamei, ve'ena mitame, for his sister he becomes Tamei, but he cannot become Tamei for one of her limbs. Ve'ena mitame le'vareh, she'ena mitame al ever achai shel aviv. So Rabbi Yehuda says he can become tamei for his sister only for one of her limbs, and for his father for one of their limbs, only when they were dead, but not for their limb while they were alive. So we see from here that Rabbi Yehuda argues with Rav, because Rabbi Yehuda allows you to become tamei. The Kohen can become tamei just for the limb of their father or the limb of their sister. Gemara challenges this idea, the position of Rav, who says that a Kohen is not allowed to become tamei for his father when his father's body is not complete. So the Gemara says that V'atanya Rav Kahana b'Rebbe Elazar, V'atanya Rav Kahana b'Rebbe Elazar ben Yaakov. But doesn't Rav Kahana? We'll stop the recording here, God willing. Let me just stop the recording.